Picture this: Paris, 1974. A film explodes onto the scene, its title whispered in hushed tones. That film was Emmanuelle. The 1970s were a decade of profound transformation, a period of social and political upheaval. Feminism was gaining momentum, challenging patriarchal norms and demanding equal rights for women. The sexual revolution was in full swing, pushing the boundaries of what was considered acceptable. The 1960s, a period of immense social and political change, sowed the seeds of a cultural revolution. The Vietnam War served as a catalyst for widespread protests and a profound questioning of authority. Music became a powerful tool for dissent and expression, with artists like Jimi Hendrix and Bob Dylan giving voice to a generation. By the early 1970s, the sexual revolution was in full swing. The women's liberation movement played a pivotal role in this shift, advocating for greater sexual freedom and control over their own bodies. Movies, music, and literature began to explore sexuality with greater frankness and nuance. Emmanuelle arrived, a cinematic lightning rod that ignited passions and sparked controversy. Its explicit depiction of sex, particularly female pleasure, was unprecedented for a mainstream film. Emmanuelle quickly became embroiled in controversy, banned in numerous countries and sparking protests. Emmanuelle at its core is a film crafted with a director's vision, a cinematographer's eye, and a composer's ear. Director Just Jekin brought a keen sense of visual storytelling to the film. The soundtrack, composed by Pierre Bachelet, became iconic, perfectly capturing the film's mood of longing and discovery. Emmanuelle transported audiences to the exotic locales of 1970s Bangkok. The film's cinematography lingered on the city's sights and sounds, immersing viewers in a world that felt both alluring and slightly dangerous. This exotic backdrop served to heighten the sense of sexual liberation. Emmanuelle's explicit exploration of female sexuality was groundbreaking. It portrayed a woman who was comfortable with her body and unafraid to pursue her own pleasure. This challenged the prevailing double standards that dictated how women could express their sexuality on screen. Emmanuelle's impact extended beyond the bedroom, influencing the way people thought about and discussed intimacy. The film's open approach to sexuality helped to chip away at the taboos surrounding conversations about sex and relationships. It encouraged a more open and honest approach to relationships. Emmanuelle, for all its purported liberation, was undeniably framed through a male lens. The camera lingered on Sylvia Crystal's body, often objectifying her in ways that felt far from empowering. This male gaze shaped not only the visual language of Emmanuelle but also its narrative arc. Emmanuelle's celebration of female sexuality often felt superficial, focused more on the aesthetics of desire. This emphasis on the visual spectacle of female sexuality ultimately undermined the film's message of empowerment. It perpetuated the idea that true empowerment lies in conforming to male fantasies. Section 3. The price of pleasure, consent, and the blurred lines of agency. One of the most troubling aspects of Emmanuelle is its casual approach to consent, particularly in its depiction of sexual encounters between Emmanuelle and the various men she encounters. The film often blurs the lines between seduction and coercion, leaving viewers to question whether Emmanuelle is truly in control of her own sexuality. In several scenes, Emmanuelle appears to consent to sexual acts that she may not fully desire or understand. The film's exotic setting and its celebration of sexual experimentation create an environment where boundaries are easily crossed, and consent is often implied rather than explicitly stated. This ambiguity around consent is further complicated by the power dynamics at play. Emmanuelle, as a young and relatively inexperienced woman, is often in situations where she is vulnerable to the advances of older and more powerful men. the film rarely acknowledges these power imbalances, leaving viewers to grapple with the ethical implications of these encounters. Emmanuelle's legacy, in this regard, is a cautionary tale. It reminds us that true sexual liberation requires a clear understanding and respect for consent. It highlights the dangers of romanticizing sexual encounters that lack clear boundaries and mutual respect. Section 4. Beyond the Screen. Emmanuelle's influence on real-world relationships. While Emmanuelle was a work of fiction, its impact extended far beyond the confines of the movie screen. The film's portrayal of sexuality, for better or worse, influenced the way people thought about and navigated their own relationships, often with unintended and potentially harmful consequences. For some, Emmanuelle's open approach to sexuality provided a much-needed antidote to the repressive attitudes of the past. It encouraged couples to communicate more openly about their desires and to explore their sexuality with greater freedom and experimentation. However, for others, the film's idealized depiction of relationships set unrealistic expectations, leading to disappointment and disillusionment. Emmanuelle's emphasis on physical pleasure and its casual approach to commitment, some argued, contributed to a devaluation of emotional intimacy and long-term relationships. The film's legacy, in this regard, is a complex one, reflecting both the liberating and potentially damaging aspects of the sexual revolution. It serves as a reminder that true sexual liberation requires more than simply shedding societal constraints. It demands a nuanced understanding of intimacy, communication, and the complexities of human connection. Section 5. The legacy of unrealistic expectations, love, sex, and disillusionment. One of the most enduring criticisms of Emmanuelle is its tendency to conflate sex with love, creating a fantasy world where desire always leads to fulfillment and where emotional complexities are conveniently absent. This unrealistic portrayal of relationships, critics argued, set viewers up for disappointment, particularly those who were still navigating the often messy realities of love and intimacy. Emmanuelle's world is one of effortless seduction, where desire is always reciprocated, and where emotional complications rarely arise. The film's focus on the physical aspects of sexuality, while groundbreaking for its time, often came at the expense of exploring the emotional nuances of relationships. This idealized portrayal of love and sex, critics argued, created unrealistic expectations for viewers, particularly young people who were still forming their own understanding of relationships. The film's legacy, in this regard, is a cautionary tale about the dangers of confusing fantasy with reality. It reminds us that true intimacy requires more than just physical attraction. It demands vulnerability, communication, and a willingness to navigate the inevitable challenges that arise in any relationship. Section 1. The Censors React, a morality play in multiple acts. As Emmanuelle's fame spread, so did the backlash. Censors worldwide reacted with outrage and alarm. Emmanuelle was deemed a threat to decency. In the UK, it sparked heated debates and fiery editorials. Mary Whitehouse led the charge, demanding its ban. Her efforts proved successful. Emmanuelle was relegated to the underground. In the US, it faced a fight but found an audience. The MPAA gave it an X rating. It became a cult classic in grindhouse theaters. Emmanuelle provoked and divided audiences worldwide. It became a battleground for cultural debates. Section 2. Forbidden Fruit, the allure of the banned. The old adage, "There's no such thing as bad publicity," proved particularly true for Emmanuelle. The bans and censorship, far from silencing the film, only served to amplify its mystique. Like a forbidden fruit dangling just out of reach, Emmanuelle became even more desirable, its reputation enhanced by whispers of its scandalous content. In countries where the film was banned, underground markets flourished, fueled by a combination of curiosity and a desire to rebel against perceived censorship. Smuggled VHS tapes and grainy film reels made their way across borders, their illicit nature only adding to the thrill of viewing. Emmanuelle became a shared secret, a subversive act of defiance against those who sought to control access to art and ideas. Even in places where the film wasn't officially banned, the controversy surrounding it ensured packed theaters. Audiences, drawn by the promise of something daring and provocative, lined up for hours to catch a glimpse of what all the fuss was about. the film's notoriety became a self-fulfilling prophecy, driving its popularity to even greater heights. The irony, of course, was that the very act of censorship had the opposite effect of what was intended. Instead of suppressing Emmanuelle, it only served to amplify its message, turning it into a symbol of resistance against those who sought to control what people could watch and think. As the dust settled on the initial wave of controversy, a question lingered in the air. Was Emmanuelle's notoriety a happy accident, or was it a calculated marketing ploy? The line between art and commerce, particularly in the world of cinema, is often blurry, and some suspected that the film's producers were not above exploiting the controversy for financial gain. There's no denying that the film's marketing capitalized on its scandalous reputation. Posters featured suggestive imagery and taglines that hinted at the film's explicit content. Interviews with the filmmakers often focused on the controversy, further fueling the public's fascination. Whether intentional or not, the controversy surrounding Emmanuelle undoubtedly played a significant role in its financial success. The film became a global phenomenon, grossing millions of dollars worldwide and spawning numerous sequels and imitators. It cemented Sylvia Crystal's status as an international sex symbol and solidified Just Jekkin's reputation as a director willing to push boundaries. The question of whether Emmanuelle's creators cynically exploited the controversy or were simply caught off guard by the fervor of the reaction remains a subject of debate. What is clear, however, is that the film's notoriety, whether orchestrated or organic, played a crucial role in its enduring legacy. The afterglow. Emmanuelle's lingering influence on cinema. Emmanuelle's impact on cinema was profound, opening doors for more explicit depictions of sexuality. It paved the way for a new wave of erotic cinema, exploring desire and intimacy. Films like Last Tango in Paris and In the Realm of the Senses pushed boundaries further. Emmanuelle's influence extended to mainstream cinema, gradually embracing mature themes. Films like Saturday Night Fever reflected a growing societal acceptance of open sexuality. A conversation starter: sex, society, and the enduring power of debate. Emmanuelle's legacy lies in sparking conversations about sex, society, and art. It challenged norms, forcing audiences to confront their beliefs and the complexities of human sexuality. In living rooms, dorms, and government halls, Emmanuelle became a touchstone for debates about censorship, morality, and women's evolving roles. It challenged traditional notions of decency, forcing a reassessment of what was acceptable to show on screen and discuss openly. Emmanuelle's legacy is a testament to the power of art to provoke, challenge, and ignite dialogues beyond the theater. A legacy etched in celluloid and controversy. Emmanuelle, a beacon of sexual liberation or a lurid exploitation flick. Its legacy is complex, woven from progress and regression. It pushed boundaries, giving voice to female desire but also reinforced harmful stereotypes. Emmanuelle reflected a tumultuous era, a cultural earthquake still felt today. The final frame, a question, not an answer. Perhaps the most important lesson Emmanuelle offers isn't a definitive answer to the question of its merit, but rather the importance of asking the question itself. It reminds us that art, particularly art that dares to explore the complexities of human desire, rarely lends itself to easy categorization. It challenges us to engage critically with the media we consume, to acknowledge both its potential to liberate and its capacity to reinforce harmful norms. As viewers, we bring our own experiences, biases, and interpretations to the table. What one person views as empowering, another may find exploitative. The power of Emmanuelle, then, lies not in providing definitive answers, but in sparking conversations, in challenging us to confront our own assumptions about sexuality, gender, and the role of art in shaping our world. So, as the credits roll on Emmanuelle, let us not rush to label it as simply good or bad, liberating or exploitative. Instead, let us carry the conversation forward, engaging in nuanced and respectful dialogue about its complexities, its contradictions, and its enduring impact on our cultural landscape. Emmanuelle, nearly half a century after its release, still has the power to make us think, to make us feel, and most importantly, to make us talk. And that, perhaps, is the most potent form of liberation it offers.